All right, hey, Fred here, back in the shop, working on a heater install for 2023 Sprinter. This is an Airtronics S2 D2L. We have Easy Start Pro controller, we have fuel pump, and this is the kit. The only thing extra that I have right here is this muffler, okay? Tiny, you're ruining my shot, buddy. This is Tiny, shop cat. So anyway, you don't need the dip tube, you don't need this plate here, and you don't need the instructions. So anyway, I'm gonna go through the install on this project and show you guys how I do it. I would recommend not doing it a couple other ways, and I'll tell you about that as we go along. All right, step one, disconnecting the ground. So once I disconnected that by pushing down on this, I can slide it backwards off of that grounding stud. And then we're good to go to work on the van. Step two, disconnect the electrical of the seat. Step three is pull out the bolts. Step four is move the seat out of the way. Once I do that, I'm gonna pull off this little foam cover and expose the seat base to start work. All right, seats out, hold this guy right, super easy. This right here is where we're gonna install the furnace, and I will show you exactly where that guy goes. The next step, take the furnace, right? On the bottom of that guy is a gasket. So you pull that gasket off of there. That gasket makes the seal between the bottom of the van and the furnace. So the part right here that has this heat exchanger, that's where the hot air comes out. Inlet, for the inlet of the air, is down here where this fan is. In the kit, have this little cover. I'm gonna pop that on there. So that guy will pop on there. This is the back end of the furnace. Right, so that's where the hot air comes out. I'm gonna pop this guy on here, okay? And then we'll have an air duct that runs from here to this guy, and this guy be centered so it looks nice and symmetrical. So hang with me. Okay, so this is the gasket that goes on the bottom of the heater, right? Okay, that guy I set down right here. If you look at this curve that goes right along here, that center of that curve, the outwardmost point, is a straight line out from there. This forward facing line right here from this protrusion, that guy right there. So I basically take and I line up those holes at the very back end of this gasket, and they are lined up with this corner of that radius. So those guys go there. The gasket actually dips down a little bit past this protruding line, and this is the perfect location for this furnace. You don't need to turn it all cattywampus. It goes right here, goes front to back, nice and straight, super easy. All right, so here you can see we've got two 1-inch diameter holes made with a hole saw. We have 4 17/64 holes for the mounting holes, and then the one fuel line you could make 17/64 or 1/4 inch. Anyway, so I'm gonna go ahead and drill these, and we'll go from there. All right, so I got the holes drilled. It's looking good, fits down in there nicely. I'm gonna show you guys from down below how that lands. So I'll put the gasket in here in a minute, but I'm gonna get under here, show you where that guy lands. So it's right there. These bolts are right in line with that, the end of that arc where it straightens out. And so anyway, that's it right there. All right, so I got the gasket back on the bottom. Really the next step is I gotta take some etching primer and touch up all of these bright metal spots where I drilled and cut through the steel. So anyway, that's next. All right, so get some primer. I like this self-etching primer from Rust-Oleum. I'll take this guy and I basically just spray it into this cup. Little paintbrush, little paint, I go do the work. After this is done, I don't even clean it per se. I basically just dry it out. So I just take this brush, it's not a very fancy brush, and this paint container, and I just dry it out like that. Moving on. So if you want to speed up the drying process, you can grab a heat gun You don't want to boil the paint, but you definitely can move some warmer air across it and take the drying time down to pretty minimal. All right, just a little tidbit. I have seen a video where somebody is using this plate. I've seen a video where the heater is installed all cattywampus at an angle. Neither of these are necessary, right? This plate is basically for going over some type of hole where you don't have a flat surface. You know, if you're going over a corrugated, you know, rear floor in the van somewhere back by the wheel wells. But anyway, you don't need this plate. Not necessary at all. All you need is the furnace with the gasket, holes in the floor under the seat right where I said, and then you take this guy, after prepping those holes with primer, you just take that guy, drop it down in there, and now you have a super nice smooth surface to sit on. There's zero reason to have anything else in there. It's a perfect fit. All right, so a lot of videos you'll see this furnace vent off to the side. I personally like to put it in the center. We're gonna go from this line here to this line here, and from edge to edge, and just go dead center. Keep in mind, this is for a short base, so this is on a newer Sprinter that has the seat swivel that comes from the factory, so then they put a shorter pedestal. So this gap in here barely fits this guy, and you'll see we're actually gonna put some washers behind this to push this out just a smidge. All right, so I got the center marked right here. That's a 2 5/8 inch hole. Okay, so I got 2 5/8 inch diameter hole saw. I'm gonna go ahead and pull this out. I'm gonna drill the pilot hole first. So I'm gonna drill like a little 3/32 hole. Then I'm gonna drill this 1/4 inch pilot hole, and then I'll finish it off with the 2 5/8 hole saw. You don't wanna use tons of pressure. You know, you don't wanna break your pilot bit and then have this walk across the back of your seat pedestal. Anyway, here we go. Okay, so that's 2 5/8 hole saw. I haven't even cleaned it up at all. This guy is gonna just pop in there like so. So we got that. I'm gonna go ahead and clean up all this stuff, clean up the inside. And then I'll go ahead and work on getting these mounting screws to hold this in place. So next is taking this guy, flopping it in here, and marking the holes. You got 2 holes on the bottom, and it doesn't even have to be perfect because these get covered up. You never see them again. All right, so these are number 8s, 1/2 inch long, and I used a 7/64 spit to drill these guys. So we're basically taking 2 washers like so, okay? So that's what we're doing. I'm gonna put that guy in and then screw that in. So we want to try and do that on all of them ahead of time. We'll see how that works. So I'm just snugging these. This is a permanent install. You could put, you know, little thread screws, you know, with the machine screw and a nut on the backside if you want, but you don't have to. So that's what that looks like. There's a little gap back here, and let's see if that was needed. Hang with me. So next I am going to permanently install the actual furnace. Then I will run outlet of the furnace into this duct. All right, so under the van, that's what we're looking at. You can see that primer kind of came through a little bit on some of those holes, which is really good. Basically in the kit, we have 4 of these wavy washers. So 1 washer, 1 nut on each one of those studs.
Never thought too hard about it.
All right, so those are torqued down. I went around and around and around, made sure they were nice and even. But basically you have an inlet, you have the exhaust, and you have the fuel. So that's what we have left down here. Yeah, so I'm gonna go up top.
Always tried to be a good neighbor, waiting for the right time to speak.
All right, so this right here is, to me, the best way to do this. Okay, it's centered on the outside. It has a nice long radius on the inside. This is actually the permanent install. It's not on the floorboard. It's not going to be touching any wires. I'm going to get some little sticky pads and secure these wires so they aren't just floating around. But anyway, this right here, minus the wiring harness, and this is what it looks like under the seat when it's done. Okay, I'm just putting a couple of sticky pads down, kind of turn it at a little bit of an angle so this wire will run through it nicely. What am I doing next? I'm going to probably go grab that wiring harness and see what that looks like. I've dealt with at least 3 different wiring harnesses. I bought these furnaces from heatso.com, from eBay, and then this is a full Espar kit, right? So it's the Espar kit. So this is actually the factory Espar wiring harness. Those other kits actually have their own wiring harnesses. So I'm gonna get stretched out. A little difference that I'm doing on this guy is that I'm basically building out the van in a different sequence than I normally would because I need to use the van. I built out brand new ones before where I don't drive them at all, and so the sequence is a little bit different. But this one, we're gonna put the furnace in, we're gonna temp in the power to it, and then we'll be able to use that. We got beds, we got a seat, and now we'll have a furnace. And with that, I mean, you really could live in the van.
Always tried to be a good neighbor, waiting for the right time to speak. Now it seems the
It
tape
even took me a minute to figure out the wiring harness, and I've done a number of these. So there's 2 bags that come, and then there's 1 box for the controller, and then you have the fuel pump separate with the furnace, okay? So you have the main wiring harness, which is this guy here. This is a fuse. It's gonna be in by the furnace. This right here, just there's a little resistor jumping 2 wires. That does nothing. So this guy is gonna plug into there, okay? And then another wiring harness that was in a separate bag, right? This guy, this end and this end connect together. And then this end here goes into this guy with this connector. So you have to put that connector on the end and then pull off this cap, which has that resistor. Pull that off. That is your control wire. So that goes to the thermostat. This main harness, it has 2 main wires, a brown and a red. Those are your power wire and your ground. And then this other one that has a bunch of wires in it doesn't do anything for this install. This little green guy here, 2 green wires, goes to here. So these 2 green wires gets this plug put on the end of it, and it plugs into the wiring harness there. And then the other end of that right there plugs into the fuel pump, okay? They're both green wires. There's no polarity that matters. You open up this bag, you put these end pieces on, you put this plug on there, and it plugs into here. This guy just stays. The end cap on this comes off again. This extra wire that has all these strands in it, you really could just cut that off back here somewhere, which will be close to the furnace. That one doesn't get used for anything. Okay, one thing I did not mention, it does come with another fuse. So this is the main fuse. This is what would connect to the battery. So this is like a control fuse here, 3 ampere, and then this is gonna be a 15 amp. One thing that I'm doing with this guy is I'm just running it over to a temporary battery location just for this trip. This particular little grommet here is where the power wire goes down to the fuel pump. This one with 2 green wires, that plugs in the bottom. This is gonna come up through that hole. Okay. So then we're gonna pull that guy up. There'll be extra of that. We'll end up cutting off, and then this guy here goes on to this guy and then plugs into the wiring harness. So anyway, I'm gonna start getting these wires better situated, and I'm gonna get the wiring harness in here. Anyway, got to get this running on the temporary. Like I said, everything will be permanent except the wiring harness will have to be rerun. So anyway, all is well. Here we go. So anyway, this is the plug I was just kind of struggling with. That is for the thermostat, right? So this is a control plug. Anyway, it's kind of a pain in the butt. In all reality, you could easily just cut both of them off and solder them together, probably quicker and easier. Yeah, just hang with me. So back working on this heater project. I've got the electrical line for the fuel pump here. Take this guy, see the little arrow? So fuel needs to go up. That support there goes to the top side where this guy is. Just kind of push that guy around. And yeah, it's kind of a snug fit, but that's a good thing. Yeah, make sure that guy's pushed all the way back right there to that electrical connector. Okay, so we're gonna take this, we're gonna put it up here somewhere. The fuel pump could go here, not sure yet. I was putting them up in here, but seeming harder and harder to drill right there. So anyway, I'm gonna figure it out. Yeah, we'll go from there. So what we're doing, taking this angle bracket and we drill and tap and bolt this into the bottom of the frame. Okay, we do one on passenger side, do one on the driver's side, and then we're able to run a 1-inch diameter stainless steel exhaust out to the driver's side. So right, you open your sliding door, you don't have an exhaust that's right on that side of the van, so you won't smell the diesel like you would if we just ran the exhaust out right here. So anyway, a couple of these support brackets, stainless steel pipe runs across, and yeah, we're looking good. So anyway, I got the electrical run across, but the fuel pump is mounted, right? This here mounts directly through, so I through bolted that guy, which you can see, and this styrofoam piece actually comes out relatively easily, and you can actually get your hands up in there and put a bolt and a nut. So that guy goes there. I got the electrical hooked up to it. The battery, not the battery, but the diesel is going to connect into this port here. So anyway, I've gotten tired of looking for the connector to connect to this guy. So really you can just cut this off and plug into it with the you know, with those rubber couplers, little short pieces of fuel line. So anyway, yeah, so this guy here just gets cut off. We do it that way, then we don't have to go find another part and have another connection. So anyway, all is looking well. I'm gonna get these other brackets mounted. I'm gonna get the fuel line hooked up, and yeah, I'm gonna work on that exhaust. So yep, here we go. These brackets right here, these are what are going to hold up that 1-inch stainless steel exhaust, and they're 1.5" by 1/8" angle iron. Use these U-bolts, stainless steel U-bolts to hold it, and these guys are 6 3/4 long. The base plate is 2 inches by 3 inches, drilled twice there, and then this is drilled twice, a 1/2 inch up, and then the U-bolt goes in there. So that's it right there. It hangs down from the van like so. All right, so got these guys installed. 1/4 stainless steel bolts going up into the frame rail. Those will have never sees on them when I install them permanently. This angle bracket will come out one more time to get powder coated. All right, so I'm taking this to 20. Come off of there. All right, good morning, Fred here back in the shop. Yesterday I had to go pick up the car hoist down in Boise. So anyway, didn't get any work done on the van. But here we go. So this is what that exhaust looks like going across the side of the van. Okay, so now it's gonna poke out the driver's side. I got the corrugated tube here, right? So that's coming down from the furnace, and then I'll have another one at the other side. Anyway, I gotta finish up the fuel line, get all this stuff tidied up. I'm gonna put some wire loom over the fuel line just to help protect it some more. Get this clamp up in here tight. This is the air intake. It goes up inside the frame rail, and then I got a couple drip holes right here in case there's any condensation that builds up for whatever reason. So that guy's always gonna suck clean air being up inside that frame rail. These guys tuck up above the heat shield and they'll get all zip tied and whatnot. Fuel pump, so that guy's at the nice inclined angle that it needs to be at. Right, so it's 15 degrees or whatever. This is your auxiliary tap right here. So that normally is tucked way up in here. I'm gonna go ahead and cut the end of this guy off, and we'll just go straight onto this line with one of those rubber couplers. All right, so I'm gonna siphon some diesel out of the tank up to pump, okay? So I hooked in some clear. I can see what's going on, hopefully. I think that's it. So I'm gonna unplug this guy and then I'll plug it into the pump. So it's dripping, that's a good sign. Nice and lubricated, okay? And that guy's gonna tuck like that. I'm gonna put a clamp back here, and everything is nice and streamlined and looking good. And now we have fuel up to the pump. I've done this a number of times and this really works well. It typically takes about 2 hits on the thermostat to get it to fire up. We'll see how it works this time. I'm gonna go ahead and tidy it all up and move on. So under the van here, I basically have it all done. I have to go to NAPA and get 2 high pressure hose clamps, one on the exhaust here, one on the exhaust over there. But anyway, so this is what it looks like. That's what it looks like on the side of the van. Okay, so we got that there. We're going underneath. We got the brackets, right? We got the fuel pump, which is super tight. Right, so when I turn this on, I'll get my hand up in here and I'll make sure there's no heat that's going to affect this fuel line. But I know the heat dissipates so fast off of this thing that it's not going to affect that fuel line, but I'll keep an eye on it anyway. If it is an issue, I will move it further away. So anyway, yeah, that's that. I'm going to go ahead and wire this thing up to a battery, plug in thermostat, and it should fire right up. Should take 2 hits of that thermostat and it'll fire. So anyway, here we go. All right, so we're gonna plug in thermostat. See, we got no power. What that tells me is that silly plug under the seat is not hooked up correctly. So anyway, I don't like those plugs. All right, so I just unplugged and replugged in that 4-pin plug, and now this fires up. So anyway, not super fond of those plugs. I'll just cut the plugs off, solder them right there. We're trying to fire this bad boy up. This is attempt number 1. Okay, the fan's turning over, and now we're gonna wait for that fuel pump to start clicking. So anyway, we'll wait and see. You can hear the fan picking up a little bit. Okay, there we go. Fuel pump's clicking. Can you hear that? So anyway, we're just trying to purge out all the air. Most time, it won't get all the fuel that needs the first go around, and so it'll shut down, say, you know, fuel shortage or whatever, some error. Then I'll hit it again, and it'll start up again, and it'll fire then. So as long as you prime that line like I did before you plug it into the fuel pump, it seems to work pretty good. So here we go, we're gonna test this out. I've not had an error yet. Fan is blowing. It seems like things are firing. Fuel pump's moving. This exhaust is starting to heat up. You got warm air coming out a little bit, just starting to come out. I'm gonna walk around to the exhaust. So it's burning. That's warming up. So anyway, that was one start there. I think that's my best one yet. Every other time I've had 2 pushes of the button. But yeah, apparently I got that thing primed up real good, and all is well. Got a temporary battery. We got 14 minutes left on the clock. We're all fused up. Put the cover back on the fuse. Yeah, so this guy's just gonna get strapped to the side of the bench seat, and we'll have heat for the weekend. We got a furnace. We got seating for 5. We got sleeping for 5. I mean, this van's pretty dialed. So anyway, I got a little ways to go, but I know what I'm doing. I've done this number of times before, and yeah, we got heat. All is well. But anyway, that's your heater install. I'll do an update later when I change up the wiring and run it underneath the floor mat properly over to my power center. Anyway, thanks for watching. If you guys have any questions, issues, you know, put them in the comments. Let me know. Awesome. Thanks. Take care. Have a great day. All right, so it's been running for, I don't know, at least 15 minutes, and this end is hot, which is coming right out of the heater, but I'm looking for any leaks. Fuel line, I'm really checking the temperature on this. So I'm gonna put my hand up right here, and I can almost touch back here. You cannot really touch it. In the middle, you can touch it, but not for long. I wanted to see what the temperature was next to this fuel line. So if I put my hand up here, it's nothing. If I put my hand on the exhaust, I can rest it on the exhaust for, I don't know, seconds on seconds on seconds. So anyway, it's not gonna affect that fuel line whatsoever, because it's probably 100 degrees, but 100 degrees ain't nothing for modern day plastics, and that's if you're just touching it. So 2 inches away, it's just ambient temperature, maybe a smidge above. So anyway, we're good on that install. All is well, all is done. Thanks for watching.